Hey, Frank,
Hello, Tom.
get this. Yep, did it. Uh,
Nice background there, Tom.
yeah, I'm in the not the weeds. I'm in the blades of grass. Oh, looks like John. Yeah, John's. Oh, yeah,
There we are.
Hello,
Hello.
John.
Good Monday morning.
Yes. Oh,
We're all together here.
yeah.
So
For,
what's
for,
happening?
for any of those who might stumble across this, I say that because I make it available online, but I don't promote it. It's part of my philosophy of a kismet. If it's supposed to be, it will be. And I don't waste a lot of time with the non-essentials. We're here to have a discussion among friends and try and make sense of the world. And we welcome the folks that are led to stop by, and we leave comments open so that if you comment and I should happen to see it, uh, I will know what your comment was and might even answer it. With that said, it is as we do this, uh, we're joined to my left, Tom Probasco, and there at the bottom of the screen, Mr. Lowe, and uh, it's Earth Day 2024, 4/22/24. And the question of the day is, what have you done for the earth today? And how does that matter to you uh, in regards to your relationship with whatever you conceive of as the all, and however you relate to the earth? And now that we've complicated things a little bit, gentlemen, start your engines.
Engines. Oh, Frank. That's not a very Earth Day kind of thing. Plus, they're electric engines, and even then.
Well, I might say that the Earth, the material world is not dead. A lot of people look at the material world, the physical world, as dead matter. Rather, it's dynamic, it's energetic. Um, I think it was Einstein, of course, came up with let's see, M equals E. Is it, do I have that? E equals M squared,
MC squared.
MC squared, right? Which is really a kind of a way of expressing that is the material world is locked in energy in a sense. I might put it that way. What do you think about that?
I recall Ben Franklin's argument for reincarnation was that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So the energy and consciousness has to go somewhere when the body stops to be present in this particular dimension. And I think that's interesting. I think the whole idea of the present, of time, being present in time, is interesting because apparently uh, time is contained as a subset of eternity. That would seem to be my understanding of it. And it's one of those things that I try not to think about when I'm going to sleep. Tom, how about you?
Well, that's you know, I read different books written for the layperson to help explain physics, sometimes specifically the notion of time. And even the best ones are really hard to understand from a mathematical, but as I've aged, my sense of time has changed. And it there are days when it just seems so strange. At one point, I thought it felt like it's all the same time, past, present, future. And there have been days when I thought this whole life that I've lived, may live, just seems like a dream, but dreamt by who? I don't know. So my experience of time often said, time just seems stranger all the
I like that. What did you quote that from somebody?
And I know I just that is just a feeling that I've had now, and it doesn't seem any less strange at all.
That really should be in a poem.
Well, I suppose it could be, and maybe and actually I've written several that involve my experience of time. But when John mentioned E equals MC squared, I'm going to see if I can find this rhyme that you guys go ahead and talk. But I'm trying to find this, and I'll read it if I can find it. It was a poem about.
But while you're looking that up,
Yeah,
I might say that the Orthodox Christian point of view is that God is timeless, beyond time and space,
yeah,
and that within these dimensions, all creation came about, but he's beyond creation. He's a creator, and you cannot put him within time and space. And science wants to do that. Science wants to find God as an object, existing like other things. But no, according to this other view, that God is eternal and cannot be conceived as a thing or an object, but beyond. Timeless, spaceless, eternal. There's a difference between everlasting and the word eternal. And eternal is often seen in this sense of being timeless.
Well, my thought on that is that where can the creator not be? Where can the origin, the originator, or the place that creation started not be connected to the creation? And
Yeah.
I my one of my favorite readings has been the Tao, and the Tao says that the Tao that can be told is not the true Tao, and I think that when it comes to the relationship between the eternal and the all, it can't be told.
Well, this is not a Christian point of view, of course. And in this is the case that God is beyond the Tao, beyond that you can't even speak of it in that sense. Really, the Catholic, Christian, Protestant and Catholic are both alike, cannot define God, but all they can do is say that what he is not. Almost all the attributes about God have to do with what he is not.
How does that differ from what the Tao says?
Because you're speaking about the all. And if you do that, you're making God the same as the creature.
Well, what the Tao says is the Tao that can be told is not the true Tao.
Well, I suppose in that sense, it would be like the Christian point of view.
I think it is.
Theologically, you cannot say what God is because he's beyond. And therefore, the best you can come up with is what he is not.
Yeah, I think that's a point where the Tao agrees with the theology of, with that particular theology of Christianity.
Well,
I see agreement.
as you expressed it, yes, you expressed it. I would agree on that too. Yeah.
Tom, your thoughts?
Well, I found, well, just quickly about that, it does make sense that we can only talk about it, but we really don't. How could we possibly be able to define the creator? I think it's just something that would be impossible to do. Our perceptions are so limited. I think we've talked about this before. What do dogs know? What do cats, bees, what do other creatures perceive? We can't see any of that, or not much. So to be able to talk about the creator and have any, as both you and John, I think, are saying, is almost doesn't make any sense. But we attempt it because it's kind of the way we're made. But I did find, John and Frank, this this was in a poetry anthology many years ago. Morris Bishop, E equals MC squared. And here's how it goes. It's brief. What was our trust? We trust not. What was our faith? We doubt. Whether we must or must not, we may debate about. The soul, perhaps, is a gust of gas, and wrong is a form of right. But we know that energy equals mass by the square of the speed of light. What we have known, we know not. What we have proved, abjure. Life is a tangled bow knot, but one thing still is sure. Come, little lad, come, little lass, your docile creed recite. We know that energy equals mass by the square of the speed of light. And that's the end of that.
It sounds like he might be a scientist.
He's a poet. He was.
Well, I know,
but he's so a poet, a person. I think I perceived him then as now, a person experiencing science in a somewhat negative way. The soul perhaps is a gust of gas. And the things that we describing the unknowable as if we know. And I don't know, but I've always just really liked that.
But one thing we do know, that right now, or do we know this, that we're conscious?
Whatever
this is the big problem of science and philosophy and theology today. The big problem of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I speak of I, and Tom and Frank, you speak of your I, the within, and I'm not you, and you're not I. But we can communicate. And on various levels, which we're doing right now, various levels, and best at the depth level. And I think we all know what that's like, by degrees anyway. I can know you things about you. I can see you right now, Tom and Frank. I can see you, your images, and I'm sure I can figure out how much you weigh and dimensions of your physical body and color of your eyes and all this information about you. But then there's something within you that can only be shared by degree, but by surety, your deep depth of self. And I can come to know you. And there's a difference between knowing about you and knowing you. And that's what I'm after. What I see as the most important thing is and how does this come about? It has to come about by revelation. You have to open up yourself to me, and I have to open up myself to you at some level. Heartfelt, whatever you want to call it, heartfelt. Sometimes it's a secret, or your inner being, your inner problem, your innards, and you know it. So I'll throw this out.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. Consciousness. I've seen discussions of what consciousness is. There was a fellow, Julian Jaynes, wrote a book many years ago called The Origin of Being in the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, where he argued that not that many generations ago, we were not conscious as we think of it now. It's a complex argument, but in that book, he talks about consciousness. And I won't attempt to explain his view of it. I'm only getting to, so I read another book some years later by a fellow that was a scientist, but also a Zen master. And his view of consciousness, he noted Julian James's view of consciousness, and it was different. Now, I don't recall their arguments. I'm only pointing out that it's not a thing that people agree about, what consciousness is.
Well, the difference of ideas. I'm sure a one who holds to scientism, who holds that everything is just physical atoms and molecules, and the physical body is just physical. There is no soul. That point of view. So they would really say, if they really are strict materialists, there is no soul. There's no consciousness. There are those who say you're not conscious. Sure, you can come up with that idea. Sure. Or you could say you're a pantheist, saying that God is all and all is God. Therefore, there's no difference between us because we're all the all. So God is there's no distinction between God and creator because all is one, and therefore you lose individuality.
Yeah.
So then you have all the degrees in between. You have a dualism, and you got theism, and you got deism. Yeah. And so you can have a lot of different ideas, and psychologically, well, it depends whether you're a behaviorist or not, whether you're a materialist or not.
Yeah.
Skinner would be a behaviorist. You're just a mechanism. While Maslow would say that, as a naturalist, would say that your behavior is depending how you relate socially within yourself and in the external world.
Psychological view.
Yeah, it's the third force of psychology. Then you have the existentialists that say, well, you are what you are in your relationship as a human being, in friendship, between really transference between the psychoanalyst and the patient. You have a relationship going on there. You just can't say, well, as a psychiatrist, well, I sit back and you talk, you do all the talking. They keep asking, well, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And pretty soon the patient will say, well, I do see that, I do have some ideas. Well, maybe things weren't so bad, that I can work it out myself. But they just keep asking questions, you see. So there are all of these different ways of looking at things, and some of them are quite valuable.
Yeah.
So you have all kinds of views.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and that's interesting that it's hard to arrive, people to arrive at truth when various situations, experience over time, speaking of time, often brings us to what apparently are different conclusions. But how much is that the truth?
Sure. Well, if you're Christian, Jesus said there is only one true truth, and that's my Father in heaven, which we go back to the eternal again, beyond. But whether it's between you and God or you and me, it can't be done without revelation.
Yeah, revelation.
I can never know you, Tom, unless you open up in some way.
Yeah.
I can get all kinds of information about you and Frank, but I really don't know unless you open up to me in some way. Same thing with God. Mystery, the great I, which he speaks to Moses about. Moses asks, who will the Israelites know? How will they know it's you that I send? He says, tell them I am that am sent you. And then the revelation of God then is, how would we know God? In that he reveals himself, not otherwise. You don't, except possibly indirectly through his creation. Awesome, beautiful, true wherever you find it, so forth and so on. But that's indirect. But special revelation has to be through some medium, a personal revelation. And this is where we would say Christ comes in. Not just another human being, but some mysterious way God reveals himself. The awesome eternal God reveals himself on our level. Otherwise, we have no idea of him.
The revelator.
Just like you and I, unless you reveal, I don't know you.
Yeah, revelation is a interesting word.
And it's deeply spiritual. It's what you are, the I. You have an eye, I have an eye. That's your soul, the inner eye. I can look at you and let me say, if I look in a mirror, what do I see? I see my physical features. I never see the eye, the seer, except through reflections of some kind.
Yeah.
Yes, the physical mirror, as ghastly as that may be. And then in my encountering you and your response back to me, that we have a mutual revelation that's going through it. Therefore, I find myself through you.
Yeah.
Mutual revelation. And it's deeply spiritual, more than just knowledge about you. All kinds of it. I could take IQ tests of you. I could take the multiple personality tests about you. All these different kinds of tests, and I could write it down and have a profile, psychological profile. But would I know you? Not unless you reveal.
Well, and then what changing circumstances for a person reveals to that person about themselves.
Exactly.
And you know, some get to stay in fairly, I'll just say, stable circumstances, but then things can drastically change for various reasons. And now, what does that reveal to you about yourself? Think of that too.
Well, we were always becoming. We're always a becoming.
What is the awareness of that? That varies, I think.
What do you think? Yeah. It varies, depends what you do with your free will.
Yeah, if you have that, if we have that.
Yeah. Are there points where we do have free will?
Yeah.
Much of the time we don't, of course.
It seems to be the case. Yeah.
This is what they call the existentialists would say. There is a point, definite points that you confront your depth of being that you would decide one way or another. And their process theologians would say that God really allows you to be truly free. He doesn't know what you're going to decide in the future. Well, most things, yes, he would, but there may be a time where he doesn't even know what you're going to do. What you're
That's an interesting concept, I think.
Yeah. Whitehead,
Yeah.
Alfred North Whitehead, and then his disciple is Hartshorn. Hartshorn.
Who's that?
I forget his first name. It's Hartshorn. It'll come to me in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I could go that direction as a theory. Because I wouldn't be fast to it because there's a lot of implications that that cause problems. However, I would entertain reincarnation as a theory. It's a possibility. That's me. So not everybody would agree to that, but
Yeah, I think about this is going back to time to some degree in consciousness. I think about how much time I spend doing things that seem to be necessary. Insurance papers, taking care of the roof, doing this, cleaning that. And I think, how much of time, how much is that even necessary? People have come to vastly different conclusions about that. Some
yeah,
spend an awful lot of time. I think I spend too much time. However, I come to that conclusion, but it adds up to a lot of perhaps inconsequential things. Maybe not. Some would say no. If you keep your abode in good shape, that results in good things. How much is enough? Uh, that's different from gardening.
takes you back to your hierarchy of values again.
Of values and
Yeah.
needs, a hierarchy of values and hierarchy of needs.
And
How are those
needs,
related?
right. Well, I think my point of view is that they are almost synonymous.
Okay, huh? Maybe they
Because
are.
there are physical needs, there's survival needs, but there are spiritual needs. And I think where Maslow would end up, I would have to go further because of spiritual.
He doesn't include that.
Those needs too,
Yeah, yeah. And how does that need express itself? People would argue about that.
Sure.
It's easy to see if you're thirsty, or you got food, but spiritual needs, how are those expressed? I'm sort of asking myself.
And does it have to exist within some sort of vertical hierarchy?
Definitely not. To me,
There may be someone whose survival needs are definitely not being met, who is in a spiritual state that is more important than attending to those survival needs.
exactly.
And both.
There's your good Samaritan. Good example.
Pardon?
The Good Samaritan would be a good example.
I have images come into my mind as I listen to the conversation, and including the importance of attention. And if I'm consciously paying attention to your words, for instance, and your ideas as they emerge, my consciousness extends outside of me. It has to. I'm the the point of emergence is the point of now, and I'm going beyond that as we are recording this, and when we post it on the internet, someone who listens to this will be paying attention to a conversation in their own time that extends into our present, and in a sense will be present with us as the conversation unfolds. And that unfolding, you talk about revelator, let's talk about emergence. And the rose or the lily as a symbol of the emergence of the present. And the closer we attend to that, the more that we place ourselves into a divine space, the creation unfolding. And when we, in meditation, become one with the lotus or the lily, we are present with whatever is unfolding, the rose or the lotus. And that is kind of where we find ourselves in meditation and in centering prayer. So there's much present study of consciousness as an external phenomenon, external to the body, and it's exciting. I'm fascinated by it. I'm really enjoying this conversation. It's probably one that's requires a peaceful place. You know, you don't have this conversation in a busy bar room or daycare center with a bunch of little kids running around, or in the middle of a fender bender. You can, however, recall the conversation. And when the three of us are attending closely to the emerging ideas and presence of that which is unfolding, we merge our consciousness in a way. And John, what you were talking about, I can't know you unless you reveal yourself, and you can't know me unless I reveal myself. As we join in this emergence of thought together, the more present we are, the more we become one with the eternal. And that is, I find that to be a very good place to be. I like to take that with me, those moments of unity, as I look at the world around me, at the world in front of me. You know, I see here a box like one screen, and on that, two very good friends that are absolutely fascinating to talk to, because we talk about things I care about, and I can imagine friends that we will share our conversation with. I imagine a friend, Phyllis Bolson, that I went to church with at Westminster Presbyterian Church on the Near East Side for many, many long years. Phyllis was quite a thinker. She was also a very good bookkeeper and one of the stalwarts of the church. And I think of her son, Rob. who is also a very good thinker. I think of a guy named Jim Olin that has a very extensive way of conceptualizing the world, that he can articulate that. And I think of our friend Tom, the writer that you so admire,
Oh, Wendell Berry.
Wendell Berry. And I think that Wendell is one of those people who is present in the present and who farms mindfully,
Right.
and who is respectful of the emergence of creation in the world around him. And it's Earth Day. So I'd like to say, for me, there are things that I look to as important in terms of respecting beauty and emergence, the emergence of a beautiful creation that I appreciate. I love the beauty of this creation, even when it's something that I have to be a bit wary of. I was thinking, like copperhead snakes that I knew as a child. You don't become too intimate with a copperhead unless you're of a certain mindset. There are people who dance with such things.
Snake handlers.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You know, that's a really interesting phenomenon. It's one that I have not indulged myself in. I did as a child. Um, I had black snakes that I was quite friendly with. Not that my parents approved of that, but I managed to make friends with them. And I something that's on my mind a lot these days is organic gardening. We're in this world. We come into this world, and like everything else, we have to breathe, we have to eat, and we have to drink. And I think about the sacredness of water. That's how we are baptized, is in water. And yet we saw the attempt to put an oil pipeline across the largest clean aquifer in the U.S. that is that was going right across the property, the land were granted to the Sioux Nation by treaty rights.
Yeah.
And fortunately, the indigenous world stood in agreement with the Sioux people, and a lot of people did.
The water keepers.
Yeah, though that was sacrilegious in my estimation, and what the North Dakota government did, and which the Indiana government did, in sending National Guard troops,
Yeah.
was not